Hey, everybody, it's Tom here, and I hope you're enjoying the summit so far. This is my fourth session for Screw the Commute Summit, and this is going to be a pro speaking masterclass. Now, if you missed some of my other sessions, just go over them here for you. My first session was my three-prong attack on a seven-figure income. It's all about online marketing, which I've been known for the past 29 years. The next session was an email marketing masterclass. So email's where the money is, folks. So if you missed that, make sure you go back to that or get the videos so you can have all of these great speakers and listen to them anytime you want. My third session was a podcasting masterclass, both from the perspective of being a great guest, which you can start immediately doing that, and from the perspective of the doors that open for you if you have your own podcast, which can be enormous. They got me invited to the White House, got me speaking engagements. I made money from the first day on my podcast, and that's all in that episode. And let's see, today is maximizing your income from any speaking engagement. Now, this is not about getting speaking engagements. I'm happy to teach you that. I have the Ultimate Guide to Professional Speaking, which is the book on professional speaking from the business standpoint. But this one is about, if you have a speaking engagement, how to maximize the money, even if you're just starting out. And then tomorrow will be my a little bit different. It'll be how to become a multimillionaire guy or girl next door. That's kind of one of my nicknames or monikers is the multimillionaire guy next door, because I'm just a small town country bumpkin guy that just works hard and figured this out. So we'll talk about the things you can do in your life tomorrow to head that direction if that's what you want. All right, so let's get into how to maximize the income from any speaking engagement. There's lots of tricks of the trade here, folks, so be ready to take a lot of notes. Okay, let's see. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested in advanced training on this, either if you're a ranked beginner and you want to get into the speaking business, or if you're already advanced and want to do better, I have a separate mentor program from my internet mentor program called the Pro Speaking Mentor Program. So you can go to screwthecommute.com/pro speaking. And I've been around, folks. Just a little bit about my background. I've done over 3,000 paid speeches in 12 countries. I always work from notes here. I mean, I forget a lot of my credentials because I've just done so darn much over the past, it's been 35 years or so. I don't know. I lost track. When I quit corporate speaking, my fee was $20,000. And you say, you quit and it was $20,000? Yeah, because I got into public seminars where I have not done less than 100,000 in the past 20 some years. Okay. At the back of the room sales. Now, part of that would go to the promoter. I was able to work a better deal because a lot of the events weren't even profitable unless I was there. So I could make a better deal, but usually you pay half of your whatever you sell to the promoter. The highest I think I did was 275,000 at a Mark Victor Hansen chicken soup guy mega event. And I'm only talking 300 or so people, folks. This isn't some arena stuff. It's some, I don't know what I would do. It put 20,000 people, would be a lot of money. But anyway, I'm happy with the mid-sized crowds there, and I've got a real good program that's not obnoxious, and I don't get refunds, and I don't get complaints, and nobody says, oh, that guy's obnoxious. No, it's not like that. And I've trained more professional speakers, I claim, than anybody living. I've been asked to speak at the prestigious National Speakers Association, and I think 10 or 11 countries, over 100 times. All right. Some places back over and over again because I made money for them every time I was there. And I'm author of this classic book, Wake 'Em Up. This is the Ultimate Guide to Professional Speaking is the business of speaking. This is how to be great on stage. And it's a 300-page book. I've got the ebook version, mostly people buy now. But that's part of marketing. That's part of making money, is being really great on stage. And just like I talked about and being a great podcast guest, um, I emphasize the word great, not okay, not passable, not just get by, but great. If you're great on stage, it helps your marketing. It helps you make more money. See, and I get so many people. I get I get these Toastmaster rejects telling me, "Oh yeah, I just want the business part of speaking because I'm already good on stage. I'm great on stage. Everybody loves me." And so I look at their demo tape and I'm thinking, "You're great compared to what? Like a sick donkey? Holy crap." Yeah, no, I'm talking about being professional level great, where you could be the last speaker in Las Vegas before they hit the golf course and they still listen to you. How about that? All right. So I don't want to hear how great you are. All right. And the thing is you could be great, but that's not a standing ovation great. It's how much money you're willing to people are willing to give you. That's the barometer of how great you are. Yeah, you can motivate people and that's wonderful, but will they give you money? Will they pull their wallet out of their pocket and give you money? Now, if you change their lives and you're that kind of speaker, I'm all for you. All right, but don't try to tell me how wonderful you are if you can't get people to give you money. All right, because if you're that great, somebody, and it might not be the people in the crowd, it might be a sponsor or something. All right, but somebody will give you money if you're really great. Okay, let's get that out of the way. All right, let's get into it. Now, a lot of people um, say, "Tom, how can I make more money speaking?" That's the biggest question I get. And this answer that I'm going to give you right now is not facetious. Here it is. Raise your fee. Raise your darn fee. Okay. And I laugh about it because it's a simple concept. But here's the story from my past. Um, when I broke into the speaking industry, I had already done 1,000 comic performances. The elders in the speaking industry were telling me I'm better than people that have been doing this 5, 10, 15 years. And I thought, well, I should clean up. I'll just charge $500, which was, I would only get maybe $100 for my comic performances. And so I'll charge $500 and I'll be so busy I won't know what to do. I could not get one job at $500. Never, none, zip, zilcho. Uh, and here's why: because people that pay speakers know how much good speakers charge. And if you're way out of line, too cheap, they figure something is wrong with you. They must have thought I was a womanizer, or I drank, or I didn't show up, or I said I wasn't politically correct, which that could have been true. But in those days, it wasn't as big a deal. But you can't be too cheap. Raise your darn fee and then add value if you want, but you got to be in line with what people charge. All right. So that's the first thing, how to make more money. Uh, and you got to get good at saying your fee in a nonchalant fashion. All right. So if they say, "Well, how much do you charge?" And you go like, well, I like to get 1,000. No, they already know you're desperate, and your fee isn't normally 1,000. It's just you're trying to. You just look bad, and you won't get the job. Trust me. So you got to get used to saying it's all right. And I don't break anybody in less than 1,500. All right, and that's even too cheap nowadays. So anyway, get nonchalant at saying it like it's just no problem. I don't care how many bills you have to pay. You gotta, when you're dealing with people, you got to be nonchalant about what your fee is. I mean, when I said 20,000, it was like, yeah, take it or leave it. I mean, because one thing I emphasize is having lots of revenue streams in. So I didn't care if they booked it or not. I really didn't. I mean, if they did, then I go into full gear to do a great job. But if they don't book it, or they're just yapping, and a lot of these corporate people are numbnuts anyway, and um, they're last minute, and then they want to cancel you at the last minute without giving you a deposit, or no. So I didn't care if they booked me or not. Okay, so let's get into making more money from any speaking engagement. Well, another thing that I kind of coined is that if you the to exceed the average fee in any industry, you can do that by being better known, and that's by getting publicity. Now, there's specialized publicity in the speaking field, very specialized, that nobody, as far as I know, has ever talked about until I've started putting it in my books and teaching this in webinars and my mentor program. So what you have to do is you have to plan ahead for this stuff. So if you do get booked at an event, what I want you to do is jockey for front cover positioning in their program. I would go as far as sponsoring the program, either reducing your fee or paying them. Okay. And hear me out on this, because I know it's hard when you got to pay the bills. All right. But this can mean enormous amounts of more money in the future. So when I say jockey for front cover positioning, if they have a printed thing they're giving out to the attendees that this, I want to be on the front cover. Okay. And if I'm on the front cover, that's sending the message, ooh, we don't want to miss this guy. He's the main event, even if you aren't. Okay. But if you're on the front cover, then it sends the message to the people in that crowd that you're important. But even better, all right, is I will gather up all the extras at the event. Or I used to do this. I don't really have to do it much anymore, but I'll gather up the extras, and then I'll use them as a promo for the next person that's trying to book me. I'll say, yeah, let me send you some stuff, or I'll, nowadays it's digital. I'll just, scan it or something. But I'll, and they'll see me on the front cover of some big event, and they're like, whoa, this guy's all right. This guy's been there, done that. It's not he's just trying to make his way, make it till he fake it till he makes it. See, so jockey for front cover positioning on the programs, no matter what you got to do, then collect all the extras and use them in your future promo. That is a really, really good idea. Okay, let's see what's next here. Offer pre-event webinars or telephone seminars. It's not so much telephone seminars anymore as Zoom meetings or something like that. But this is an extra benefit for the promoter or the organization, that you're willing to spend extra time helping them make it a great event. And so you say, look, I'll do a pre-event for anybody that signs up. We'll do, a week ahead of time, we'll do a big pre-event. And even if they haven't signed up, maybe this will encourage them to sign up. And I'll give them a taste of what they're going to get when they get to the event, and really promote it for you. And you can talk about the other speakers that are there and so forth. All right. But just the fact that I'm the one on the thing means that the people are like, oh, this is the main guy that's going to be at this event. And then I do a great job on the webinar, and then they want to join the event and make sure that they see my session. All right. My goal, this for years and years and years, this has been my goal. I want them to love me before I even get in the country I'm speaking. Okay. And this is one way you do it. You offer a pre-event webinar or teleclass or something like that. Now, I offer also to make a pre-event video, because I have a TV studio, or you could do it in any nice little setup. This is something that I don't want to do the TikTok, kind of thing, unless it was a real young crowd, then I might. But I want it to be a nice video, and I'm telling about the event, how wonderful it's going to be, how excited I am going to be there, all the great things I'm going to teach them when I'm there. And also, we're going to have these other speakers. so I tell all the other speakers, but again, what message is being sent of who's the main event? Me, see? And the promoter's like, this is awesome. You give me this gorgeous video, and I could put it on my website to get more people to sign up for the thing, or to be excited. Even if it was a corporation, then a lot of employees have to go, and they just bitch about it. but they get excited about it and they're not bitching as much at the event. So that's another thing, a pre-event video. Next thing is make sure you have a great title. Let me give you a story of I was speaking at the Greenbrier, which is a real super fancy resort place. And why they booked me, I think the lady in charge had seen me somewhere else where I rocked the crowd, and it was a real estate event. And I'm not a realist. I mean, some big New York Times bestseller was the keynoter. There was 16 of us at any one slot in breakout sessions. Nobody ever heard of me in the industry. And I said, oh man, this is not good, because I don't want to show up, and my fee at the time was 65 or I don't know, 75. I don't remember. So, I don't want an empty room there. So I started, and this is something I always do, is if I'm going to a different industry, I'm interviewing lots of people in that industry. So I interviewed loads of real estate agents and brokers. And I found out that it's kind of a frustrating job, because you're using your own car, your own insurance, your own gasoline, you're taking customers around, showing them houses. They're lying to you like you're my only agent. Yeah, they're lying that through their teeth. The kids won't shut up in the back so that you can talk to the parents. So it's very frustrating. So I went home and I thought, what am I going to do? So I wrote the title, How to Make the Sale When You Just Backed Over the Mailbox. Okay. And my room was packed full of people, and a lot of big real estate industry people was sparsely attended. Sorry, they didn't take the time to be a pro and do what I just said. I interviewed people, and those people showed up because I took the time to talk to them and get their opinions. See? So I did this all the time in corporate speaking and public speaking. So write great titles, and that will help you fill your room up. You never want to be in an empty room. That looks so bad. All right. A lot of times I still got paid, but nobody wants to be involved in that. The meeting planner's looking bad because nobody, came, and oh, it's bad. So whatever you can do to make it good is better. Okay, let's talk about bookings, corporate or whatever you're doing. You can jockey for multiple engagements at the same location for more money. And so when you get booked for the original, you say, oh, hey, is there any other executive board while I'm there I could do, or if I'm the keynote, can I do a breakout session for you, do something else, give them more value, some stuff like that. And a lot of times they'll say, oh yeah, we got a slot to fill. And even when I was 20,000, I only said, oh, just another 1,000 for that, where they're like, what? Only 1,000? Yeah. Because the slot would have cost them 35, 45, 5,500 to fill. So, but I'm there anyway. The day is shot. I'd just be up there watching Oprah reruns, at the time. And so it's an extra $1,000 in my pocket for something. I'm already there, and I already got 20,000 for the main event. I'm making a deeper connection with people. All good. So multiple engagements. And that's at the same location on the same day. Okay. Now, another thing would be multiple engagements at different locations, which would be normally on different days. So here's the thing about this. You got to be careful with your agreements so that you don't get screwed. So a lot of scumbag meeting planners or executives will say, oh, okay, if we book you for 3 different places, you'll give us a discount, right? Yeah, sure will. You book me for 3 of these instead of 20, we'll make it 15. How about that? And so what happens is they pay 15 for the first one, and then mysteriously the other 2 never happen. So they just screwed you out of 5,000. All right. So no. So if it's going to be multiple engagements at different locations, it's going to be on the same agreement with a 50. We're going to talk about deposits here pretty soon, but it's going to be fully deposited for the whole thing, not just if they want the discount, they've got to give you the deposit for the entire all 3 events. Okay. So that holds their feet to the fire that they're going to happen. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Now, if you are doing, like I said, a general session and the breakout session, make sure that you do a general session first. You don't want to do the breakout session where nobody's heard of you and it looks pitiful, and then you go to the general session. Do the general session where you wow the crowd, everybody loves you, and then they'll be clamoring to get knocking the door down to get in your breakout session. Don't do it the other way around. Okay, so that's booking. Okay, let's talk about paid speaking and selling stuff. One of the things you can do is pre-sell products. And a really important thing that you have to keep in mind is a term called educational materials. Write that down, educational materials. Because number one, some places refuse to pay speakers at all. They just, you get the exposure, they say. I'd rather go out to the Arctic and pull my pants down to get all right, then go speak for free. All right. But I do speak for no fee as long as I can sell at the back of the room. All right. But anyway, uh, a lot of times, and even if they do pay you a fee for being there, you can suggest, do you have an educational materials budget? And many times the meeting planner has to spend it or they lose the funding for next year. And you're making that person's job easier. You say, oh, in that case, hey, I could include it in my fee. This is another trick, is that I give 100 books in my fee, but I say, uh, the other books I can sell you wholesale for like $12 instead of 24, and I still make 10 bucks a piece extra. And they say, oh, you would do that? Oh, man, let me think about it. Yes, I would. And so they buy out of a different budget your materials. So that's a cool way to make extra money. It's all pre-sold, shipped, everything. You're not schlepping stuff. You're not pitching from the stage. It's all, the money's already in the bank. All right. So that's pre-selling product. And you can offer, if it's a book, to stay and personalize, like, sign books and stuff. That looks great. It looks great for pictures, for future things. It looks great for pictures, for you to promote. If you have an assistant with you, or you get the picture of a big line of people waiting for you to sign the book, that's great promo for the next event. Say, again, just like the front cover. Okay, so that was educational materials. You can put that on your fee schedule. You should have a written fee schedule, which I cover in the Ultimate Guide to Professional Speaking. And I would put that in there, that term, educational materials available. And then they can see that and they say, oh, they might call you about it. See? Okay, let's see. Now, this is something that most speakers do not listen to me on this, and I think it's a really big mistake. I know it's a big mistake, but they don't listen. So I use my own product in my speeches. I've only used PowerPoint in one time when I was a spokesperson for CBS and they sent me around the country. I had to use their PowerPoint. There's no way around it, but it was $100,000 contract. So, okay, I'll take it. This was way, way back. So I use my own product, and this is where you can sell without selling. I'll get to that a little bit later, but I use my own product in the event, and that's why nobody ever thinks about my time when I'm on stage. I never have to complain, oh, my time's getting cut or whatever. That's in my contract now. My time is never cut. But when you're coming up through the ranks, it frequently gets cut. So all of my material is on the desktop of my computer. Now, when you would have it on PowerPoint, if your time gets cut, they're trying to, you have to go through slides real fast or start talking faster, and people feel like they're getting cheated when you're going missing slides. Say, in my case, they don't know what's on my desktop. They don't know what's next, and so I can end right on the dot, no trouble, no sweat, no nothing. Look cool as a cucumber. So think about using your own stuff. So I have videos on there I can play. I have text that I can pop up, documents, pictures, things like that. So that's what I do. Let's see. You can also sell follow-up teleseminars and webinars. You can get a lot of money for webinars in the corporate market, proprietary ones. So it's you create it just for them. And also, even in the beginning, to get the job in the first place, you can say, hey, I don't just speak, I follow up with your folks with a webinar to make sure they're implementing or if they have any questions of what I was teaching. See? Well, extra value, extra value. Most speakers don't do that. So they just try to get their check and be gone, forget about you. Let's see, you can sell consulting. A lot of people speak just to get the consulting contracts, which can be in the hundreds of thousands or millions in big companies. So you can also sell or license. That's another thing. You can license material to a company. You can make it on a sliding scale so that the bigger the company, the more money they pay, but they pay every year. And also, it's your material that you created for them, but you license it to them. You can do updates every year, charge them for that. And you can also charge them for train the trainers. So you're not having to do all the training of the stuff. So that's a way to make money. Now, I said about including products with the sale of the speech. So one of the first things I did when this Wake 'em Up book got finished was I went from 3,500 to 4,500, but I gave 100 copies of the book, including with the deal. And the thing only cost me $2 to print. It's a gorgeous 6x9. It's a little bit old now because it still has some overhead projector stuff in it, but most of the stuff is evergreen in here. I still use it to this day when I'm on stage. But anyway, so I offer 100 of copies of the book with my fee. Even at wholesale, that's another $1,200 to $1,300 bonus for them. But here's the thing. They say, oh, Tom, that's really great. But you know what? We have 500 people coming. Would you sell us 400 more? What do you think I said? Even at like half price, I'm making another $4,000 for the speaking engagement. I'm not schlepping. It's shipped directly to the event, and everybody gets a book. See? So that's very cool. And then the line is humongous if you do a great job on stage to sell. I mean, I've had them where they're lined up from the auditorium out into the parking lot waiting a half an hour to sign the book. All right, not because I sold them individually, I pre-sold. Okay, let's see. Some people option to charge for the handouts. Now, I don't, because my handouts are somewhat promotional and with links and stuff that lead back to me where people can buy stuff. So I don't charge for handouts. Now, here's a really interesting thing if you do luncheon type speeches. So a lot of the meeting planners will spend a fortune on centerpieces, and then one person gets them or they rent them, and the money is just thrown away. I asked them, if you're booked far enough in advance for a luncheon type speech or a banquet, either one, and you can ask the meeting planner, once you're booked, I'd say, hey, are you doing any centerpieces for the event? And they say, oh, yeah, I can't believe it's costing us $40 a piece for some plastic plant that stick there. And I say, oh, wait a minute. You know what? I'll do a custom audio for you on thumb drives, and you can put them in the middle of the table and everybody will get to take one home. How about that? And, $5 a piece. Okay. That's an extra $40 a table or $50 a table for tables of 10. So they're paying the same amount of money, but they're getting value out of it. See, and it might come out of the educational budget, and they just tell the person with the fake, centerpieces to take a hike. See, so you're adding value all the time, but you're still getting paid for it. So that's a really cool one. Okay, now I talked about how meeting planners will screw you. Well, you want a 50% deposit before you do any work on the event. And you got to hold true to this, because I got to tell you, in this kind of environment and with scumbag and airhead executives out there, they will, at the last minute, the boss will say, find a speaker or find 10 speakers for our sales meeting. And then they do. And then they cancel it, or they say, that's too much money, let's drop it at the last minute, and call them up and tell them it's canceled. Well, the bulk of the work that I do is done before I ever get in the country I'm speaking at. I'm doing all this research and preparing and all this stuff. I'm not any dog and pony show. Everything I do customized. So the work is already done. The delivering it is the easy part. All right. So what happens is when I demand a 50% deposit, and they're going around saying, "Oh, cancel Tom." Well, the meeting planner says, "Well, we can't. We got to pay him anyway with his contract, and we've already given him 50% deposit, non-refundable." Okay, keep Tom. Go cancel this person that didn't know what Tom knows. Right? See, so you want a 50% deposit, and then the other thing, once you get to the point where you can kind of demand where they really want you, I get the other 50% 2 weeks in advance. And you say, "Whoa, wow, woo." Well, here's the thing. I might get more in one speech than the training director gets in working 4 months, every day for 4 months or more. They don't like you. And they see you speak and they say, "I could have done that better than him. I know our company better than him," and they don't like you. And so they might be involved in giving you the check. And then you're walking after the speech, you're walking around like a homeless person waiting for your money. And I want you to be a celebrity. Now, not like, a worldwide celebrity. That'd be great. But I'm talking about a celebrity at your event. You're the big shot. Well, big shots don't walk around waiting for a check. So get it 2 weeks in advance as soon as you can get to that point. All right. Now, if something that has to cancel because of a pandemic or something, that's a different story. But you just don't want to do all this work and have them cancel you. All right. Now, the next section I want to talk to you about is how to sell when you're not allowed to sell. All right. And in corporate events, you can't get up there and do a back of the room sales thing. No, no, don't even mention it or ask it. That's crazy. So you can't even put out sales flyers at the chairs of the attendees. I can, because here's what I do. I create what's called a magalog, magazine catalog. Let me get a drink here. Magazine catalog. And so it has articles in it, and it's full color. It's nice. You don't print it on your home printer. You get them printed up ahead of time at a printer with full bleed, it's called, which means the ink goes all the way to the edge, not like your printer, which leaves that much gap and it looks like it's homemade. No, this is really nice. And you can start with an 8.5 by 11. No, 8.5 by 17, I think, is the 17 by 11. I forget. But anyway, one big piece of paper folded gives you a 4-page magalog. Now, mine was 20 pages, but I didn't start that way. And what it is, and so you ask the meeting planner, "Well, I have a magazine with feature articles. Can I put that out?" "Oh, yeah, you can put that." But it had ads for all my stuff outside the feature articles. Okay. So that's a magalog and really sets you apart. By the way, in my public events, in my contract, all my stuff must be given out at registration. So people get my stuff, they take it up, and there's a video involved, and they look at it on their computer. And a lot of people came down to the event and bought my package before I even spoke or they saw anybody else speak. All right, so that can be very powerful if you can get that in your contract. Okay, like I said, use your product in the in the seminar or wherever you're teaching or wherever you're speaking. So here's what happened one time. So I had this $199 multimedia CD-ROM at the time, and it had 50 videos on it, and I took 3 or 4 of them and used them during the presentation. And so people were coming up to me after the presentation, "Hey, how do we get those videos?" And I said, "Well, I'm not allowed to sell stuff. The meeting planner said I can't." So all of them bugged them to death. And then I started selling loads of $199 CDs that weren't even there. I had to ship. Right? But it wasn't me. I was totally innocent, right? So use your product during the presentation. Another thing is to hold a drawing. So this can work both in you do have to clear it in whatever situation you're in, but I hold a drawing. And so this gives me a chance to describe what the people will win, but I'm not asking for any money. They're just going to win it. So they hear about my retreat center. They hear about this package of material they're going to get that took me 20 years to figure out, and all. They get all this big prize, but now they have heard about what I have to sell. So when the time comes at the end of the speech, I don't have to really, go crazy explaining things, because they already saw what they were going to win with the business card drawing. And then also I follow up with the business cards. Now, you can't get away with this with a lot of promoters, but again, it's in my contract. If you don't let me do it, I ain't coming. And they know that I'm going to make a lot of money for them, so they let me do it. And then I do follow up. And if somebody else buys after the event, I still send the promoter the commission. And that's my reputation of being honest. And that's why they let me do it. Okay. Yeah, so those are a couple ways: holding drawings, magalog, and use your product during the event. All right. Now, how to make money from, I told you I don't speak for free, but I will speak for no fee. But you always want to get something in return. I told you about educational materials. They can pre-sell your stuff. That's fine. I'd rather they buy, at the time, 1,000 books than pay me a fee. Yeah, it's because now I got 1,000 ads out there with a whole bunch of people that are going to go to different companies. 1,000 people are going to end up in 40, 50 more different companies when they leave, see, that company. So I'd rather have them have a book in my hand and think, wow, that guy was great, and they can bring me into some other company. But anyway, I like the fees too. One thing you can, so what you want to do is you want to trade for things of value. Might not cost them anything. So for instance, you might say, okay, I'll come and speak, but I want an extra 3 days at the resort for myself, and I want an extra airfare for my spouse. Well, sometimes there's an airline that's sponsoring the thing, and it costs them nothing to throw one more seat in, say. So it doesn't cost them anything, but then they get a top-notch speaker, but you didn't ruin what we call fee credibility. See, if I tell them I'm 20,000 and they say, well, we only have 500, I say, I'll take it. So the 20,000 didn't seem real. So if they say if I say I'm 20,000 and they say, well, we were only planning about 12. I say, well, let me ask you, is it possible that you could buy some of my materials to give out to the people in the crowd? And they say, oh, sure. Yeah. Our educational budget. Bam, there we go. So I look good because I didn't just drop my fee, look desperate. I got more money from the product sales. They're happy. Everything was easier for them because I provided the products. Beautiful. Everybody's happy. But you have to be ready to offer those deals and be ready to fulfill those deals if you want to make the most money. Or you say, no, I'm not coming. All right. No, don't do that. Unless it's just an impasse. There's no value for you, and there's no reason for you to drop your fee. Okay. Another thing I've had the people do is videotape and give me the master. So I did an event for a big college, and they didn't have my full fee. I still got partial fee, and they did a 4-camera video shoot for me at the highest quality. And it was their, they had a video production course, and they're always looking for projects. So I got a beautiful 4-camera shoot. I did the same for the Air Force. I spoke for the Air Force. The one thing I didn't get is I was supposed to get a ride in an F-16, and they ended up sending them all to Iraq. So I didn't get my ride, but I did get this gorgeous big shoot in front of all these military people. The Secretary of Defense was there. It was the 50th anniversary of the U.S. Air Force. And, so I got a big, gorgeous video out of it, and inroad into the military market. Let's see. And then you can always take your speeches and transcribe them and video them and sell them, as long as it's not proprietary stuff from a company. You can take the videos, you can take the audios and turn them into products. And so from that speech, you got another product. See? So, okay. Now, public events, that's where I've made the bulk of the money speaking. And I like it better because it's entrepreneurs and they want to be there and it's a lot of fun. But I don't recommend you throwing your own public event until you have enough people in your database that you can fill the seats through email or social media, because it can be very expensive. You know, if it's going to be a live public event, there has to be enough people in that area, unless you've got a big enough name that they're willing to fly in. So you can lose your shirt on some of those things. I know a lot of the big events in Los Angeles I used to do weren't profitable if it wasn't for me. And a lot of times they'd ask me if I was going to be available and contract that date before they'd book the date of the event, because they knew I'm going to bring in an enormous amount of money. And they had put out a lot of money for these big ballrooms and all the stuff that goes along with a big live event. So be careful doing your own. Now you can do little ones. Now I hate the logistics of it. I mean, if you're doing a big one, you better get a meeting planner, because they can make deals with the hotel that you can't, and they know what they're doing. But the little ones I book myself, and I have a thing called Butt Camp. It's the longest running ever, continuously running live seminar for internet and digital marketing. There was about 3 of us guys in the beginning, way back in the mid 90s doing them. And I'm the only one. I don't know if those guys are still around, but I'm the only one doing Butt Camp still. All right. So, and the way the name came about is I was making all this money online and people said, you got to do a boot camp. You got to do a boot camp. I mean, I really never planned on being Mr. Internet Guru guy. I was drug into it because I was selling my public speaking stuff so big around the world that people noticed and they begged me to do it. But I came from this comic background when I had my entertainment company. And I thought, I can't do a boot camp. Everybody does boot camp. So I was sitting there making all this money. And I thought, I'm sitting here on my rear end making all this money. I'll call it Butt Camp. And it caught on, and I've done them in 11 countries around the world. Except in London, they made me call it Bum Camp. Okay, so anyway, public events, be careful what you're doing there. All right, now, if you do get to speak at other people's events, this is where I love it, because I'd still do lots of work that the other speakers don't even realize, but I don't have to worry about the logistics and renting the room and all that stuff. But anyway, if you're there, you're going to pay a percentage of your sales to the promoter. Usually it's 50-50. I have a significantly better deal than that, but I am kind of by contract not allowed to tell you. This is where you're selling product, and it's good to have a physical product because people like to carry stuff out by the pound. And I used to have a big kit of stuff. Nowadays it would be on a thumb drive or some other medium that they could, but something they could hold in their hand. And then a big back end of coaching, consulting, mentoring program is what I had. Now, when I did these, or when I do these events, I'm the first one there. I go early. I check out everything. I check out the stage. I check out the sound system, the video system, the seating, everything. And another thing that I do is I offered to do the pre-webinar for people. I offered to do an early bird session where there's no selling. This is for people that flew in early. And so let's say there was 300 people at the event and 100 of them were in the night before. And so they say, early bird session. It's promoted ahead of time that Tom will be doing an early bird session for the early birds. And so 100 people are at this early bird session and there's no selling, but I wow them. I do all kinds of, show them all kinds of cool stuff. and I show them how to make a $50,000 video about their company for pennies on the dollar. But guess what I use as the demo video? My retreat center, which starts salivating that they want to come and spend an immersion weekend as part of my year-long mentor program. Right? But I'm not offering anything for sale. I'm just teaching them how to do it themselves and all the cool tricks of the trade to do that for pennies on the dollar. I mean, I got estimates for that video from $36,000 to $55,000, and we did it for $3,000, and it's made. We can't track it exactly, but maybe 13, 14 million dollars. So I was teaching them this at the early bird session. So what happens the next day? The rest of the crowd comes in, and a third of them have already seen me, and they're talking to these other people. And they, oh man, you should have been here last night. This Tom Antion was here, and he showed us he was great. Whatever they say. All right. Now the people that weren't here, like, oh man, I don't want to miss his session. Yeah. And so again, it's just you're infiltrating the whole event with you being the big shot because you're willing to do all this extra stuff. Okay. I told you about putting my promo materials are in my contract have to be given out at registration. So when somebody comes in, they get my magalog, they get I think nowadays they would get a thumb drive. In the old days they would get a DVD, but nobody has a DVD player anymore with the video on. Okay. Another thing you can do for an event like this is offer what are called sign-up premiums. Sign-up premiums. I'll give you another example of this. So I was chosen to be the main one of the main speakers at this first ever Wharton Business School e-commerce event in Washington, D.C. And so when they called me up to book me, I said, okay, and hey, would you like to have some sign-up premiums? They didn't even know what they were. Okay. Remember, these meeting planners sometimes come from a school or something. They don't know what they're doing. I said, oh yeah, you can promote it as the first 100 people that sign up will get $199 CD or DVD. I don't forget what it was from one of the keynote speakers. And they said, you would do that? I said, oh, absolutely. It cost me $2 to duplicate them. So I give them $200 worth of these things, but they were retailing for $199. Right? So I became a $20,000 sponsor. I'm up there with Alcoa and GE and all these other big companies. There's Country Bumpkin Tom doing Ivy League Wharton School, and I'm up there with all these guys for $200. Okay, so that's called a sign-up premium. So you basically offer the promoter freebie stuff that can be given out that helps them promote the event, but it's featuring you. Get it? Get it. All right. Okay. Then I always stay. Well, first of all, I always watch every other speaker. This is part of being great on stage. So I do not want to get up there and not know what some other speaker said. And then either I say the exact same thing, which makes me look boring, or I say the exact opposite. And now people are, geez, I wonder who to believe. No, I don't want that. I want to know what they said. So if I believe the exact opposite of what some other speaker said, I will say, hey, you heard so-and-so say this, and he or she's been very successful with that. But here's another option that you could consider that I've had really great success with. And then I tell the exact opposite of what they did. All right. And so that's a beautiful way. You've never been thought of like, oh, I've heard this before. I'm going to go out and check my email. No, never happens to me. So I listen to every speaker. Then after the whole thing is done, I stay. I'm the last one to leave because so many people at these events, they're on the fence. It's a big investment. They don't know what to do. And I'm the only one that's staying and talking to them. I mean, I've gotten so many sales because I'm just the guy next door, which is what we're going to do tomorrow, that multimillionaire next door, that I just down home and I talk to them. And I don't wear a name tag at the event, which is really funny because see the look on people's faces because I'm just talking to people and standing around like, when the whole thing's starting. And then eventually I go up to speak and I'm got this big royal introduction almost. And, and the people are like, that's the guy I was talking to. That's him. It's so funny. But yeah, what makes me laugh a lot is these big divas come in with their entourage and they roll in, don't talk to anybody, do their dog and pony show. And then they're so important, they got to fly out. So you better buy right now. And they fly out. And I'm just sitting back there laughing because I'm going to take all the money. Right. I know I'm going to take all the money. See? So stay late, do the drawing. Now I use a 3-part NCR form. No carbon require, I think that stands for. I used to think it was NCR was the company. And because I don't want to run the credit cards right there on the spot, because there might be a line of people and the next speaker is going to start or something. And then I don't want that. I want to sign it on the form, make sure it's legible, and then I can always follow up and call them if something goes wrong as we run the credit cards later. Now, the way I end my speech, I never go for the standing ovation, ever. I do a special thing. Of course, this is cleared with the promoter. They know it ahead of time. I try to always speak at like 10:30 or 11 going into lunch because I want people to have plenty of time to figure out if they're going to take my deal. So I take them to a separate room. 98% of my whole talk on stage is no selling. I mean, it's indirect selling, showing my products and this and that, but there's nothing like all the other speakers that it's gold, silver, platinum, all that. I just sit back and laugh because the audience is like, what was that? What was that platinum thing? They're confused. I am one deal, buy or die, but I don't do it from the stage. I get to the end, I wow them, and then I say, hey, anybody that's interested in hearing about, you've seen the retreat center on the video. If you're interested in my mentor program, I got another room set up to the side. Anybody that's really interested, come on over there and I'll answer any questions you have. There's no pressure or anything. And then it's like the Pied Piper. And I tell the sound guy, you keep my microphone hot. As I get off the stage, no music playing. You see how I got this kind of down, folks? And that's why I can turn 100 grand or 200 grand, almost 300 grand one time. So I think about all these things, and then I get the people over there. And then sometimes I throw a pizza party so they don't have to run off to lunch, so it costs me $400 or $500 to throw a pizza party if I'm going to come home with 100 grand, so that's called an isolation room, but it's really not like there's machine gun nests there. It's just getting people to make a commitment to move a little further towards joining my program. All right. So now this is kind of funny. I ask people frequently, what do they think my main goal is when I get on stage? And they say all kinds of things, to sell stuff, to make them laugh, whatever, educate them. All those are byproducts, and this sounds kind of mean, but let me explain it to you. I want to scare the hell out of them. I want to scare the hell out of them. It's called a scare tactic. But that's not a mean thing. If you listen to my definition, this is from copywriting too, in my copywriting training. I want people to know in no uncertain terms that there's consequences to them if they don't know what I know or have what I have. There's consequences. And I show them, I might say something like, ma'am, I look in the crowd, ma'am, there was a lady sitting right where you were in one of my butt camps. She had spent $80,000 on a website, not one visitor and one sale. I would never let that happen to you. All right. And that was true. The lady wouldn't even let me tell what her name is because she was so embarrassed. Yeah. See, so there's consequences. If you don't know what I know about internet and digital marketing, you're going to blow enormous amounts of money, probably get frustrated and quit. All right. So that's just the bottom line. And so I convey that and I have them laughing and having fun and doing stuff like that. But they are getting the message. Geez, This guy has been there, done that, knows what he's talking about, and is going to save us a fortune and help us make a fortune. And so they go over there and join my program. All right. So that's scare tactic. It's not mean. It's making sure people know in no uncertain terms there's consequences of not having what you have or knowing what you know. Okay. Okay. So I told you about that. And then see, when I stand up there, I'm looking at a potential $1 million day, because the way I structured my program kind of made a lot of people mad, because when I first really start the training in internet marketing around 96, 97, people are charging 50 or 100 grand up front to small businesses to teach them this stuff. And I knew a lot of these people. They were scumbags, and they'd be hiding out in Mexico if you gave them 50 grand up front. So I said, it's too risky. I'm a big small business advocate. I'm going to turn that upside down. So I just charged an entry fee. It was like 10 times lower. And I tied my success to their success. So for me to get my 50 grand, they had the net 200 grand. Well, people love that. And 1,800 students later, as I sit here and talk to you, it's still going strong. See, so sometimes going opposite and having an entry fee. But what that meant is anytime I was up there at a decent sized crowd, I'm looking at $1 million day. So that's why I kill myself to do all this stuff professionally. And when you do it enough, it doesn't look like a lot of work. It's just you're conversational. You're the guy or girl next door. You're really nice to deal with. You're fun. You're funny. And then, but still, you can collect a lot of money from folks and feel good about it because you're taking care of them and you're getting money for it. All right. Okay. Now, if you only have a book, here's another really cool thing. You got to have a little bit of guts to do this. And I did it with this book. When I learned this from, I forget who I learned it from, but anyway, I learned it from somebody else. And so I was selling this book at the back of the room. That's all I had at the time. I had some tapes and stuff, but this was the main thing. I was doing communication and sales presentation stuff in the early days. And so I got the idea from somebody, I can't remember, to put a book at everybody's place setting. And I put a little note in it that said, you don't have to buy this book. We're just going to use it during the presentation. And when we're done, just put it in the box in the back of the room if you don't want it. All right. And so I sold 3 times as many books, never said a word about selling the book. I only picked it up like twice in a 90-minute presentation, and I turned to a checklist on something, and I read a passage that was really insightful, and then put it back down. And then everybody just threw $20 in. I discounted it from $24.95 to $20, just $20 bills going in a box as they walked out the door. So that's a way to sell 3 times more books, but you have to not be afraid that 1 or 2 might walk out on you. So that's a really cool thing. Now, people say, well, how do you get these public speaking events? Well, you probably need to, by the time I started, I was already pretty well known. But if you want to get started in that kind of speaking, you got to go to events, meet the promoter. You can't take their time up because they're really busy. But it does carry weight if you have gone to an event and, spent the money and got to know them. And then doing some smaller events of your own and approaching them with figures. Okay, well, I did my own event. We got 40 people and I sold 10 of them at $497 package. Anything like that is going to catch their ear. Now, it has to be enough money for them to take a slot from this big hotel room and give it to you, hoping that you make them some money. Because if you bomb and don't sell any, then that's not good. So you really kind of need to work your way up to this with proven sales, because if you bomb and don't sell, they're going to tell all the other promoters, and that's the end of it. All right. So you want to, inch your way into it. Don't say, oh, I got a great slot, and go up there and not have gone through it hundreds of times like I have, so that I can guarantee I'm going to hit a grand slam. If you do everything in my contract, you're going to get a lot of money. Okay. At the end of the day. And I've proven it over and over and over again. So if you're not there, you need to start getting some practice on this, get some training. I have great, in my mentor program, back of the room sales training, and help you develop products and all kinds of stuff to sell at the back of the room. Okay, let's see what else we got here. So you meet the promoter, you got to see the culture. What kind of speakers do they have? Do you even, or are you even the right kind of speaker for their event? You have to come up with offerings. But another thing you can do if you don't want to even do that is get sponsorship money. So you could have a sponsor pay you, and you go to the promoter of the event and say, look, you don't have to pay me, but I'll give you a percentage of my guaranteed sponsorship money. And I'm going to do a talk on this, and it won't be a big sales pitch, but that session will be sponsored by Alcoa or GE or whoever your sponsor is. So that's another way to get on the big stages, but you don't have to beg, borrow, and steal because the money is guaranteed to the promoter for that slot. See? So that's a really cool way. Another thing that I used to do is I'd let people know if I'm getting a paid gig in a certain area. I'd announce that to the people on my email list in that area if they wanted to do any paid consultations while I'm there. See? This whole thing was to maximize the value of any speaking engagement, in case you've forgotten and got in the weeds with me here. But the weeds are where the big money is, folks. That's why I give you so deep detail. And I mean, I think my speaker course is a 24-week course, something like that, because I can't, only so much fit in these summit things. But if you know all this stuff, you're almost guaranteed to make way more money. All right. Okay, let's see. Another thing that I did was I did speaker junkets. So after I was an established speaker, I would say, okay, for so much money, I think it was about 5,000, you could travel with me to the speaking engagement. I teach you how to prepare for it. You travel with me. You'll see my setup procedures. You'll see what I do before, during, and after the speech. If it's a certain kind of speech, I might be able to get you on stage for a few minutes to get some pictures during the live event, that kind of stuff. So I called that a speaker junket, and I did them. Like, I remember taking some people to Mexico and stuff like that. So that's a speaker junket. And there you go. There's just, I think that's all I could fit in today before you guys, like, your smoke is pouring out your head. But that's the way I roll, folks. I have loads of information. When you're in my mentor program, of course, I don't feed you all that like a fire hose. I mean, I really take you one-on-one and see how much you can handle. And then if you can handle that, when you come back for the next consultation, we go more. So it's all one-on-one. My training, I don't like group stuff because you have to dummy it down too much. I do some group email masterminds and ebook masterminds just on the side, but for the big stuff, for the comprehensive program, it's one-on-one. The only group stuff is when you come to the retreat center, and it's maybe the most we ever had was 10, average is 5 people here. So you get a lot of attention from me and the staff. So check it all out, greatinternetmarketingtraining.com, or if you're interested, if you really want the fast track in the speaking business, which is opened up now because the pandemic is people are kind of ignoring it, even though I keep hearing new strains coming and so forth, but I don't see hardly anybody wearing masks anymore. So it's opening up, and this is the time to prepare so that when it opens up fully, you'll be ready. You'll hit the ground running. You can start making money in the meantime too if you do the corporate stuff right away. And that would be screwthecommute.com/pro speaking if you're interested in that. And just get in touch with me. There's no high pressure, but I'm always here to serve you. So we got one more day of the summit left. There's a lot of great speakers. Make sure you listen to them. Grab a copy of the videos if you want to repeat any of these things. They're super cheap deal. I mean, it would cost $1 million to have all the 20-some people do all these sessions for you one-on-one. So it's quite a bargain. All right. So tomorrow I'll be doing how to become a multimillionaire girl or guy next door. I will see you tomorrow.